Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy!
Great girlfriends, get ready. She's my absolute favorite Support Your Girlfriend leader. I'm so excited about her new title as New York chapter president. Come on, do it, just do it, just
Hey, love it.
but in all seriousness, there's no greater prayer warrior. There's no greater person to love and to call on when you are in a time of need, and also just to bring a bright light to your day. So, Lucinda, did I miss any of your titles? Oh, she's also an amazing mother. I cannot forget to say.
No,
Did I miss any titles?
you covered it all. You covered it all.
Good. Okay.
I'm here. I'm here. Great girlfriend, a support your girlfriend, a activator. I'm just happy just to be here. Yes.
I'm so happy to have you. There's so much to cover right now. First of all, I want to I don't want to get into our trip because we'll talk about that on another episode that I forgot I got to ask you to be on. But
Okay.
I do want to talk about
I'm there. I'm there.
I want to ask you how you feel about this time and culture for women, and then lock in on how you feel about this time and culture for Black women.
Oh, this time and culture for women, I would say, is really putting a stamp in the ground. I mean, we're really showing the roots of these trees and what we stand on, right, every day. And so just us using our voice and showing up and creating, I believe it's our ancestors, all of our ancestors, black, brown, green, yellow, whatever color you are, or what you claim to be, is a time where our ancestors can see this is what they fought for. They fought for us to be women, to show up and have a voice when it comes to our bodies, our careers, our pay, our families, and how we operate in this country. So
Yeah,
I love where we stand today.
I do too. I feel like there's a rising that's
Yes.
happening. I feel like energy has been resuscitated. You
Yes.
know what I mean? I feel like spirits are awakened right now because people feel like this is something that they can opt into, a type of
Yes.
change and transformation that feels really good and honest and intentional and impactful, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there is, let's to be clear, there is a war behind all of this, right? There's spiritual warfare that's taking place,
Yes.
but we are so armed and anchored and ready to fight to win this one, and I'm super excited. And I'm specifically over the moon because I was in the group chat, as I do, as I be, as we are,
Mhm.
and I saw an exciting announcement about a
Yeah.
campaign that you kicked off that was announced in Black Enterprise. And I just wanted in on it. I was like, we got to share this with our great girlfriend. Talk to us about the campaign.
Yeah.
Why you? I think that's important, and what
Yes.
we need to know.
Absolutely. So the campaign is called Justice for All, right? That's the campaign. It's Justice for All. It's a voting rights campaign, not only to get voters registered, but to get those who have been impacted by the system, who may have a conviction, may have a misdemeanor, and not aware that they can still vote. So to get them registered to vote. And for me, it's important because I am someone who was formerly incarcerated. I have served time with hundreds and thousands of women. And just according to the stats on how many come home, how many individuals who come home from incarceration are not aware that their rights are restored to vote, their rights, many of their rights restored as citizens to vote are restored. And so for me, it was important upon my release to get involved. I was a young adult at the time, but I said, you know what? I still want to exercise my voice to vote, when others would just say, well, the vote doesn't matter, but it does, right? It does for
Mhm.
policy, it does for laws, it does for legislative, it does all across the board in politics. And so it
Mhm.
starts with us using our voice and registering.
I think it's so big because I know, Lucinda, most of us think this is just me, being adjacent to all of this conversation, going, you've been incarcerated, you can't vote. That's like a narrative, a standing narrative. And for those who have been incarcerated, maybe it was a small misdemeanor all the way up to a felony. There's different rules around voting rights, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
There is. I mean, in particular, there's three states that even if you're incarcerated, you still don't lose your rights, right? Like District of Columbia, Maine, Vermont, you never lose your right to vote, even while you're incarcerated.
Mm.
The government is not going to tell you this. And this is information literally that's on the Department of Justice website in terms of your rights to vote. Now, are there deadlines to register? Yes. But if you are still right now in this space, you can still vote depending, on where you stand. In
Pause,
23
pause,
states,
pause. Real quick. If you're currently incarcerated in those three states, you can vote.
you never
Or
lose your right to vote, even while you're incarcerated. DC, Maine, Vermont, you never lose your right. You never lose your right.
so
Yeah.
how do you vote if you're in those states?
So it's just never taken away. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just never taken away. So I don't believe there's a way for them to vote while they're inside. I don't know if they can submit an absentee ballot or how those states work. I mean, they can definitely contact their Secretary of State to find out, which I think if you know that get the information and ask the right questions, you'll be surprised. You may be
Right.
inside and still be able to vote.
Right.
Right.
Do you understand the numbers? Ooh,
The
ooh.
The numbers are game changing. The numbers are game changing. There's over 650,000 citizens who come home from a conviction that they had to actually serve time in. Now, this doesn't even include some people are still waiting trial, pending convictions, haven't even touched inside a facility or incarcerated yet, and they still have their rights to vote. 23
Mm.
states, after you serve your time, your rights are automatically restored, like New York, New Jersey, automatically. So once your time is up, you can serve. So if you did 6 months, 3 months, 3 years, 13 years, whatever your situation is, after your incarceration term, and this is specifically for those who actually serve time, if
Mhm.
you've just been convicted, you still have your rights. But if you serve the time after your conviction, your felony conviction, you still have the right in 23 states. And those,
Wow.
yeah, you have the right to vote only while they're automatically restored only when you're released in those 23 states. And
Get out of here.
this is information I'm sharing on, this is a whole social campaign. We're going to close out with a big registration. And during this whole process, when people sign up, we make sure they understand where they can go vote. Where's your Secretary of State if you need a pass, where to go for more information. But yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So
You know how many votes that is, Sybil?
I know I'm over here like
You know how many votes that is?
magnanimous. Oh my goodness. So the information is being withheld, and I understand this campaign is meant to get that information in hands and then transact urgently because we're talking about November, but there's also local elections, and that's really where so yeah, go there.
Exactly. So you have the 2-year elections, right?
Hmm.
You have
Hmm.
where you can vote for, depending on who's in office, who's covering your borough, from your
Hmm.
borough. And so there's so many different ways that you can exercise your vote, not just only in the presidential campaign. There's the
Hmm.
primary. So there's a list and slew of ways that your voice matters and you can really impact change. But we're missing millions upon millions, hundreds of thousands who are coming home every year who are not aware of their rights, and they can have a voice in how the changes in community happen. Some people are
Yeah.
serving just sentences. Some people are, so depending on the case, not here to judge, but if you have, like, there's a saying, you've done the crime, you've done the time, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Enough. This doesn't have to be a life sentence where you don't feel like you're a part of society. We're more
Hmm.
than just statistics. You're part of
Hmm.
the society. We still can create and impact change. We have a
Right.
voice. Yeah.
Right. So clarify this for me, because this is the one. If you've ever been convicted of a felony, you lose all rights. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So that's what people say. If you get a
Nope.
felony, okay. So you
Okay.
don't, so are you losing legislative at the state or the national or the local or national? You're not losing any right. So where are people
Depending,
getting this from?
depending on your state. So a lot of this is old laws and what you're just told, right? A lot of
Mm,
this is what you're just told. 15 states, if you have a felony, you lose your voting right during incarceration and for a period of time afterwards. So after you finish probation, you pay your restitution, your fines and fees. Your rights are restored.
wow.
That's in 15 states.
Wow.
That's with a felony conviction. 23 states with a felony conviction, you only
Yeah.
lose your rights while you're incarcerated. Some people have felonies and they haven't served time, but you
Yeah.
only lose it while you're incarcerated, which means that you can still vote. It's automatically restored upon your release. 10 states, you lose your rights. They're a little tough on, on the situation for some crimes, and they
Yeah.
just require you to either get like a certificate of relief or speak to your governor, your governor's office, call your secretary of state and ask them, how do I restore my rights to vote?
So then where do we catch people to really get this information in their hands so that they can convert into voters instantly? Because I hear some paperwork involved, and I feel like that might be a gap where people be like, don't want to do paperwork, ain't got time for this, or may feel like they're not educated enough to make those steps. Where do we catch people so we can really make this tangible and effective?
You know what? We have to catch people where a lot of these voting campaigns are happening and
Okay.
let them know this message has to get mass media, has to get big promotion, but they'll hide that. Even with several posts that I put out on social media, the algorithms haven't shown what I shared. And I
Right.
had to post and repost several times. There's
Yeah.
no way one video I can get 2 to 3,000 viewers. And in this particular campaign, I see 6 viewers. So it's
Right.
really platforms like this. Thank you so
Okay.
much for this.
Mhm.
Platforms where other people are gathering and pushing the agenda will help get the message out to say it's not paperwork. Just like you go to the DMV, just sign up to be a registered voter. If you know that you are, I'll give you an example. Some of the states, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, for example, those are states automatic restoration of your voting rights. All that means is you just go where you can sign up to register to vote,
Mhm.
fill out the form, submit it, and be done. You can go to your local town hall to register to vote.
Wow.
The funny
Wow.
thing, where it gets a little crazy, gets a
Okay.
little funky, right?
Okay.
Of course, Alabama,
Mhm. Mhm.
Arizona, Delaware, Florida, Iowa, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, Virginia, and Wyoming are a little more stricter on having a felony conviction and incarceration, and they require more information, but still start the process.
Mhm.
Still start the process. So we're looking at 23 states automatically restored, 14 states, if you've paid your fines, fees, you're off of probation, you're off of parole, and you completed that, you can still vote. And then 3, you never lost the right in the first place.
My goodness. I mean, I feel like my entire head is blown by this
Yeah.
information because I didn't know. I believe that, I've heard it, I've repeated it. Oh, if you had a felony, you can't vote. And I've bought into that narrative for so many years. I was very uneducated, and this today is literally opening my eyes to this. And now I'm thinking, where do we move the needle the most? Like, first, I'm thinking about news outlets. I'd love to see BET talk about this. I'd love to see,
Yes.
yeah, I'd love to see, some of our radio stations. I'd love to see Breakfast Club have a conversation about this. Like,
Yes.
I'd love to see some of our urban network stations really having this conversation with you specifically and with someone else who can really speak male to female in terms of like getting people out there and creating urgency.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm calling them by name because hopefully there is a call to action that comes
Come
from
on.
these
Come
stations.
on.
I would love to see them get behind this because it has to be that Black media takes ownership of our responsibility to call our daughters and our sons back home to vote, to get them voting, get them
Yes.
activated, and
Yes.
mothers and aunts who are writing letters that we advocate and that we continue to push people forward. Like it has to be that we do this so that it's not suppressed. And if it
Exactly.
comes right. And so I'm thinking about that, but also I'm thinking about this is probably not a strategy campaign podcast, but
This
my brain
is
won't let me not my brain won't let me not think about the graphics and the arts that are attached to this campaign that we need to get in people's hands that allows for them to know the steps and know the facts state by state so that we have a timeline that's
yeah,
attached to this for sequential effect. We know like, okay, by October, we have gotten these media outlets in these states to opt into this conversation. We've
yes.
got okay. All right, this is all happening, I'm sure. But you just need to count me in. Like call me in, coach.
You're in, tag, you're it, because we need this. I'm just here as the voice and have doing and doing the research and someone who's been in the system and has had hundreds and countless conversations with individuals like, well, I can't vote. And it's why not? And so just really looking at the amount of people who are not only incarcerated, we have a mass incarceration rate like none other. No other place, no other country does it how we do,
Yeah.
but it's a big payday for them. But with each person, and we can share this voice. And I love that you mentioned those outlets, because if we're really going to rock the vote,
Yeah.
we need to say, let's rock the vote, not lock the vote.
Ooh. Ooh. Was that the top of your dome? Was that the top of your dome?
We write that down.
You
We need
better
to
write
really
that
rock the
down.
vote and not lock the vote, because what they holding back the information, and now it's incarceration mentally and your freedom of
Yeah.
choice,
Yeah. You
because
talk
they're not.
about that mental, right. And that fear piece is a piece that we have to break down because once you realize that piece of power that you have in your hands, there's endless opportunity that comes from that. You go, what else can I do that was withheld from me? And we go those larger media outlets because we're above the algorithm at that point. At that point, there's no algorithm that can outpace us, that can stop us, that can,
Yep.
you've got airtime, you've got access, you
Yes.
have a higher probability of really making those connections. And I think I'm thinking also, what are the brands that need to say, yes, we're going to plug into this?
Eh,
Yeah.
because we need to
Ooh,
cover all grounds. This is
absolutely.
a grassroots campaign, but we don't need it to stay grassroots. Once the information is out, syndicated, you can't ignore it. And
Yeah.
that's the point out. You can't ignore it. Someone has an uncle, a father, a brother, a sister, a friend. Someone from your community. Each of those voices can make a change and
Yes.
impact on how many diversion programs we have in our communities. How do we really reduce recidivism if we're not telling? And recidivism is stopping the coming in and coming out. How do we really stop that if we're not even letting them know and withholding information on how to become a better citizen?
Right.
So now either
Right.
you're saying, oh, we want you to become a better criminal, not a better citizen.
Mm,
Let's lock them
mm,
up and
mm,
lock them
mm.
up and lock them up, versus these are your rights. You could still have a voice. You can show up at these Senate meetings. You can show up at these town halls. It matters not only because what we do today, and this is what I want every individual who's still hesitating on voting, or why should I vote, or why should I register? This is something that we're doing for our future families. This is what we're
Yeah.
doing for our children's children's children.
Yeah.
Something that we're doing to change the way society handles and manages these type of situations. What else, like you said, what else is being withheld? If you are holding my voice, which my ancestors fought so hard for, this is my right. And I want something that I'm connected to, that's my right.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's generational wealth as well, because there's so much power and value in voting. And, our mothers and fathers and ancestors fought for that access. And now we're in the same spot where we get to fight for a group who has been silenced or unvoiced. We get to
Yep.
bring that power forward. So, all right. So
I'm
Lucinda.
writing notes. I'm sorry. I'm writing notes because this is like the rock the vote, lock the vote. I'm sorry.
That was good. That was real. I was like, wait, was that top of the dome? Was that like dome? Like, was I first? Did I get first look at that?
You
Like,
always get first. You always get first. You always get first, but yes.
So, if what would you say to the great girlfriend or someone who passes along who has been formerly incarcerated, who is like, all right, I want to do it. First step, where do I go? What am I
So
doing?
the first step I would tell them to do is to one, they can go to the usvotefoundation.org,
Okay.
usvotefoundation.org to look up when is the deadline for voter registration. That's one. Two, I would definitely say contact your state senate. And to make it even easier for you, you can just go and find out in your town hall or your local community, stop by your local DMV and just grab a voter registration list, fill it out and submit it. They
Mhm.
have them sometimes in your doctor's office, the post office. If they even want to connect with me at activateyourlife.org, we'll make sure that you get the information, the voter registration forms, so we can send it to you as well to make it very easy. They can come directly to the source with the big mouth and get the information that they need. Just let us know that you are interested in registering to vote, and we'll walk you through the process.
Okay. And so if I am friend, auntie, ally, big sister to someone who is incarcerated or is now on release, what am I saying and what am I doing? Am I sending them those steps or am I like what is my first call to action?
Your first call to action is to say, are you registered to vote?
Okay.
9 times out of 10, they're going to say no. I just came home. And then you tell them, do you know that you can still vote? If we're in this state, this particular state, you can still vote. I have the information for you. I highly recommend you register to vote. Do you need help in
Okay.
getting registered?
Okay.
And
I
and
love
and
this.
give them the information right then and there, because the doubt has been seeped in for so long that their right has been lost in this, that they may need you just to be there to say, well, where do I go? What do I do to do this? And
Yep.
it's right in our backyards, literally in our back.
Mm.
Mhm.
Lucinda, at the end of this, how will you know you've won? How will you know this campaign is successful for you personally?
For me,
This doesn't end actually.
this it
Keep
doesn't, it
going. It's
continues
over.
on. But
Yeah.
for the soft push of this campaign, as we get broader, if we can get the big goal for now, at least I would say 100,000 new voters across the states.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we've made a dent
Mm-hmm.
in the awareness out.
Okay. We can do that. That's light work for us. We
That's
can
like,
do that. We will do that. We
we
will do
will.
that. I love that. Lucinda, I can't thank you enough. You obviously know my brain is turning. So when we jump off this podcast, we need 10 minutes just to talk about some things that I'm thinking.
Yes,
But
yes.
great girlfriends, don't opt out of what this means for you, what this means for your community, what it means for your cousin, your neighbor, your neighbor's son, your neighbor's daughter. We all know someone or two or three who could use this information and who can be activated. Also, think about the brands you work with, think about the companies that you work with and some of their civic responsibilities or their campaigns and how you can plug this information in. Also, think about your voice at your local church, at your local neighborhood watch, in your sorority, in your fraternity. Like, think about all the ways that you can help to viralize this information because I don't think that Lucinda needs to carry this alone. I think that we're all responsible for protecting and growing the impact of our village. And again, this is part of our generational wealth and impact strategy. This is how we make sure our children's children know their rights, are always protected and empowered to make great choices, even when they fall and they can get up and keep going and keep making sure that this country moves forward and not back. So after you figure it out, what you want to do to opt into this campaign, even if you're sharing on LinkedIn, you're sharing on Facebook, Instagram, you're just sharing what you just learned, or you've decided that you want to bring in Lucinda to speak or to send in a video to your company, whatever that might be, reach out to her at
Lucinda@lucindacross.com.
don't not reach out to her. If you don't reach out to her, I'm gonna be DMing everybody one on one. Like I know you listen to this podcast and I know you're thinking about something, but don't waste your time. It doesn't have to be big. It could be just a micro step. It doesn't have to be that you calling on the UN. just a micro step in the right direction because we're literally handing the baton one by one. And if we can do one to many, awesome. But don't opt out. This is an opportunity to opt in. So I'm opted in, Lucinda. I love that. Rock the vote, not lock the vote. That's like,
It's given. It's giving change. It's giving voters at the polls.
on. It's giving voter on voter on voter on voter. Do you understand what happens when everyone knows they can vote and decides to go out and vote? Do you understand what the democracy looks like?
You know how loud that voice would be?
Oh my goodness. Like I
You
can
know
hear the
how
roar.
loud, you know how
Oh,
loud. And I'll say this because it's not so much crime is increasing, it's the laws and policies that are in place. But if we're
yes.
at the tables to say, hey, this is why this is happening and prevent it from happening. My thing is, let's prevent even the incarceration. But if we don't have a voice,
Yep.
if we're using that voice,
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Then what? We're
we're
just
allowing
always reacting. Yep, that's right.
and allowing our lives to be dictated and we're not dominating.
Mm. It's not gonna happen on our watch.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. Not
You
at
think
all. Oh my God. Thank you so much for jumping on, Lucinda. I love every time you're on the podcast. I feel at home. I feel just like, oh, there she go, there she go. Great
yes,
girlfriends. Don't forget, reach out to Lucinda at Activate Network. Make sure that you're following her on Instagram. She didn't mention that at Lucinda Cross. Make sure you're following her on TikTok.
at Lucinda Cross.
Okay. Keep going.
And
Where else?
And to get connected about this whole initiative and the campaign, we are on Instagram on my site at Lucinda Cross. The nonprofit that's pushing this is Activate Your Life Inc. Activate Your Life Inc. on Instagram as well as Facebook. And you can go to activateyourlife.org. There's all the information. There's a link for you to sign up, join the campaign, get more information, and be supported. Right. And if you have questions, we're hosting information sessions almost every week. So hop on one of our information calls so we can support you in getting registered.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't give up on yourself. You don't give up on anyone. And I'm so grateful to know that God has given you the strength, the purpose, and the willpower to push this through. And I hope that we can all do our part to help you push it forward as well.
Thank you. Thank
I
you,
love
Sim.
you, friend.
Love you.
All right, great girlfriends. Did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends. Follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_great GFS. I'm Sybil Amuti and I'm out. Peace.